All right, good evening, everybody. My name is Melissa Ziobro, and I am the Specialist Professor of Public History at Monmouth University in West Long Branch. And I have the pleasure of assisting the Princeton Preservation Group with their virtual lecture series. I'm just saying hi so that you know I'm here. I'm going to be like the tech person in the background. If you have any issues, just reach out to me in the chat and I will do whatever I can to assist you. With that very short intro, I will turn things over to the brains behind this operation, Gary Soretsky, who wears many, many hats. Some of you may know him as the longtime Monmouth County archivist, but he'll tell you a little bit more about Princeton Preservation Group and his work in that capacity. So off to you, Gary.
Thank you, Melissa. I appreciate the intro. The Princeton Preservation Group will be celebrating its 40th anniversary meeting in October. It was started by Susan Swartzberg, the preservation librarian at Rutgers. And since 1983, we've been meeting several times a year. In the early history of PPG, the meetings were in person. The sites changed over time. But since the pandemic, we've been meeting on Zoom. And we meet on a wide variety of preservation topics, from preservation of buildings, environments, tombstones, carpets, photographs. We've had meetings on disaster recovery, which is an aspect of preservation. Anything related to preservation of cultural heritage qualifies for our talks. Some of them have been more technical, but most have been for a general audience. We will be having a members only garden party in June for members who have paid their dues. That party is going to be on June 10th. If you're not a member and would like to become a member, please go to our website. The dues are $5 a year. Some people pay several years at a time. And you will get an invitation to the garden party. Now I'd like to introduce our speaker. I want to thank Kelly Ruffel for agreeing to give us a talk today. She is the Executive Director of Preservation New Jersey, as I think you know, since you signed up for this meeting. Preservation New Jersey was founded in 1978. And they've been doing a fine job ever since, promoting knowledge of endangered structures, such as buildings, but also other things. And Kelly has recently joined PNJ, and she has an extensive management background in historic preservation, history, and cultural affairs. She's also an assistant county administrator for Passaic County. And she works there coordinating and partnering with department heads and others on projects, grants, and programs. And she also serves as director of the Passaic County Department of Cultural and Historic Affairs and is the chair of the City of Paterson Historic Preservation Commission. And in addition, she's an adjunct professor of history at William Paterson University. So with those wonderful qualifications, we were delighted that Kelly was available and agreed to give us a talk, and I'm happy to turn it over to Kelly. After her remarks, we'll be glad to field questions. Melissa will handle the Q&A part. So take it away, Kelly.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for the lovely introduction. As you can tell, history is sort of like my life. I'm really passionate about history and historic preservation, and I'm glad that I signed on, and PNJ welcomed me just a few months ago. So I'm just going to kind of go through the brief of who we are, what we do, sort of where we have been for the last 5 to 10 years, and hopefully where we will be going in the next year or so. So, and pardon my slides, I have 2 screens, so let's, no, how do we, there we go. So who is Preservation New Jersey? So we were founded in 1978. We're a statewide member-supported nonprofit historic preservation organization with 2 part-time consulting staff. So myself and Dale Perry, who has joined us. So wave, Dale. We have approximately 30 regular volunteers and about 117 members. P&J works to promote the economic vitality, sustainability, and heritage of New Jersey's diverse communities through advocacy and education. Some of the things that we do, or for our members, and again, as we're a member organization, we publish an annual 10 most endangered historic places list, which draws attention to the remarkable sites that we have and to the challenges that they face. We believe that listing them will be a catalyst for change, and we hope that positive solutions can be found for their preservation. We publish an instructional and informative toolkits and other education materials. We maintain an informative newsletter, as well as all the cool kids now are doing Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We advocate for sound public policy at the local, state, and sometimes federal levels on behalf of our historic preservation community. We conduct tours, workshops, lectures. We go to conferences, to educate the public. We also provide a network of between training and then a directory for professionals through our building industry network. And we serve as a clearinghouse for technical assistance and information for homeowners, municipalities, other historic preservation commissions, nonprofit agencies. So the Q&A that we'll have later, we get questions all the time that are fielded through our office on preservation matters. The missions, goals, and governance of P&J. Like many nonprofit organizations, we go through a strategic planning process every few years. P&J, the last time they created this strategic plan was in 2019 to 2011. And so a lot of the information that I'm sharing you with this evening goes back to that strategic plan. So our mission, again, we're designed to promote the economic vitality, sustainability, and heritage of New Jersey's diverse communities. But our vision, or what we had envisioned for New Jersey at the time when the plan was created, was that, our ultimate goal is historic treasures are protected, and that the community itself uses preservation or values preservation and makes preservation a priority and an active force in strengthening, economic development. We're hoping that the communities or our communities and their historic sites can continue to boost economies by making them attractive places to live, work, and explore. And our chief goal during this time was to educate the broader public about the combination and the continuum of economic development and preservation, and we were hoping that New Jersey's rich resources and our diversity would influence this wave. So our mission and governance and our goals have been guided by those principles. Now, I'm going to just take a step back a bit. How is P&J, or how are we governed, or what is the structure of P&J in and of itself? So yes, we are a membership organization, but we are governed by a board of directors that serve no more than 3 3-year terms and are elected by our organization's membership. We do have a nominating committee, which we'll talk about a little bit later, where we select candidates based on their knowledge of preservation and our experience in running a nonprofit organization. We also make every effort and attempt to have candidates and have board members that represent New Jersey. So that's, geographically, because, we have North, Central, and South. Sometimes, just the way New Jersey is, we tend to, waver towards one place or the other. But we have made every effort so that we seek people throughout the state to have solid representation. We have several board members that, term out or resign, over the years. But especially even when I'm coming in where the board is now, with that loss, though, brings, kind of opportunity, especially as the board in the coming year will seek and will have new members, energized members ready to take on and expand our programs and services. And again, a lot of this and a lot of what P&J does is, volunteer. So all of our board of directors and our member, we are volunteers. All of the work that we do are volunteer hours. Our board members must, chair committees. So we do have 5 different standing committees that cover, finance, programs, development, and technical assistance. So through our last, at least, strategic planning process, board members were assigned tasks to various committees to implement throughout the year. We do appreciate all of their support and help to kind of keep P&J going and increase our capacity. In addition to, obviously the work of our board, we have myself and Dale who, we kind of manage the day-to-day operations, which is, our membership, databases, communications with, our constituents. We're kind of doing the hands-on work to get information out there, building the newsletter, et cetera. Now, when we get into our, what are we offering? What services are we offering to our constituents? It's education, engagement, and advocacy. So in education, for example, our 10 Most, and I'm going to start back there, is our flagship program. P&J has been running the 10 Most program, I think, and Dale, you can correct me, since 1998, maybe even a bit before. Our database has, she's like, yes. So with this program, we have been highlighting, architectural, cultural, archaeological resources throughout the state that have become, they're in imminent danger of being lost. And what's unique about this program, it's definitely very public facing. It is a public nomination process where, it could be neighbors, it could be your friend, it could be historic preservation, organizations, it could be the municipalities themselves that will nominate a building to this program. We then, as P&J, through committee, will review those nominations and select and vote on, a 10 Most list, if you will, which then is sort of accumulated in a main event, which is held typically during Preservation Month, where we will draw in new audiences and attentions to these sites. And then it is through the 10 Most program that we're hoping that coverage and attention will sort of bolster the municipalities or organizations that are affiliated with these sites to, start building momentum on where the sites will go next. The 10 Most program is followed. So for example, we kind of look back, whether it's year after year, or we'll, revisit sites 10 years later to see where they, whether they have been a success story, whether they might have had some setbacks, or whether those sites are, have faced demolition. So with the 10 Most program, we have integrated it into other programs that we offer, which Melissa has been so kind to schedule and manage. That is our talks with our 10 Most, our Q&As with P&J, or other sort of similar panel discussions where, we get to hear from them, see where they are, knowing what their story has been, what challenges. And a lot of that is, those are tools that we can then use for other sites, and other sites can model them off of. So our 10 Most is our, our favorite program. The other types of programs that we run, other than the panels and the lectures, we do walking tours that focus on architecture or other preservation challenges. We tend to select, municipalities with, downtowns or definitely walkable features, or who might have interesting stories to share. We will be in Somerville in June, and then in Freehold in July. So those are 2, and Perth Amboy in September. So those are 3 different walking tours that are coming up to highlight historic resources in those communities. Workshops in the past, which we hope to, moving forward, bring back workshops that are designed to give credit to professionals in the preservation field. So, AIA credits, perhaps planning credits, any continuing education focused certificates in the field of preservation. So P&J has run programs like that before, and we will be continuing that legacy as we come into the new year. Another, next one, advocacy. But before I kind of jump into advocacy real bit, in addition to our general programs or physical programs such as this, we do take into account our newsletter and any of that digital work that you're going to start seeing more of from P&J. We kind of, that is an education program. P&J has produced a quarterly newsletter, which, is really given to mostly its members, but it has now reached a wider audience who's just on our mailing list. And our newsletter, we'd like to cover, key preservation issues, kind of best practices, a look back again on our 10 most, especially if we have some updates from our sites, just a promotion of our events and the things that we have going on. With that, our website, again, as a program and a tool, all of this information, and technology changes, so does websites. So P&J has revamped its website 3 or 4 times. We're currently in the process of revamping that again so that we can have a stronger database and hopefully be a one-stop shop for all things in terms of toolkits, resources for preservation matters. We also would like to have a fully flushed 10 most database, and then long-term goal, sort of a resource for a full, complete historic site or historic resource listing for the state of New Jersey. So we are in the process of developing that, and again, that kind of ties into education and the program that we offer. Now, in terms of advocacy, P&J does work to inform many of its constituents and the public at large about new legislative and regulatory initiatives that come out and that impact historic properties. So there are times that we are going down to Washington, D.C. We're meeting with state officials or your local officials. We do provide letters of support for communities, whether it's through grant projects that they're looking for, or if they're just looking for support on, let's say, preservation decisions, because let's say it's going to a planning board and, maybe that municipality is, on the fence of how to treat a building redevelopment. Maybe it's not in conformance with the Secretary of Interior standards. So we often get asked if we would provide comments or support to applications such as that. In addition, we do field a lot of questions regarding whether it's just general, we want to deed restrict our house because we want to save it. We don't want to see it demolished, which I know is a recent one. So I'm using that as an example. So we will take the knowledge, the extensive knowledge that we have, and be able to respond to sort of those inquiries. And then we use those as examples, or we try to find and seek models that might best represent the state. Another advocacy example, we're working on creating a cemetery preservation master plan for the whole state. New Jersey lacks policy right now that kind of geared towards the preservation of cemeteries. So again, we're trying to put this document together and work on this project that would advocate for stronger avenues for preservation of these resources. Engagement. So a lot of this, it's all sort of tied together, but separating now other forms of engagement that we do. One example is we host a regular annual awards program where, which really, again, helps to draw interest of the public, officials, and the community about the efforts of ongoing preservation work. This is, from the Young Preservationist Award to awards in excellence for, preservation design, restoration, planning, and even planning. So those are held in the fall. We also attend conferences. So we are a staple in the State Historic Preservation Conference, which this year is June 12th and 13th, and we will be there again to promote the work that we do and to network and hopefully build more partnerships with our communities. Panel discussions. We are going to be actively more so working with local HBCs. This Thursday, for example, we do have a panel where we're going to discuss challenges that local HBCs face when doing enforcement and design review. So that's this Thursday, and similar conversations or panel discussions will take place. Roundtables, P&J has hosted many roundtables to discuss preservation issues, and those will continue. And then P&J has been a part, or is usually invited to be a part of many steering committees. For example, 250th is coming up, so we're all gearing up for that. And there's various different organizations, so P&J has been asked and invited to attend that. So again, where we sort of look at the state as a whole, we're able to provide comments on behalf of various groups. We're also been invited to, or just recently, on a steering committee for policies that affect, state-owned historic properties and how funding gets dispersed to them. So it's great to be part of those conversations, and P&J has done this since its inception, and we will continue to do so. Now, what's next for P&J, which I kind of intertwined a bit. So before I kind of get into what's next, again, P&J has based, or at least the last few years, has based its, its goal, its mission, and sort of its services, programming, based on a strategic plan. So our strategic plan is a bit out of date. However, when it was created, no one could expect that COVID-19 and a pandemic would sweep through. So we kind of used, 2021, 2022, and even a bit of half of 2023. This strategic plan has extended us out thus far. So moving forward, we will be meeting to kind of reimagine what P&J will be. We will create a new strategic plan. We are hoping to rebuild the organization in terms of capacity and our membership. We are always looking for new help and new membership. And what I think from my perspective, coming in new, which was one of the things that we have identified, is how we can use the programs that we run, and we're just kind of going to go back to the 10 most, and what more can P&J do for the these sites. So typically the 10 most have we have this big event, or we're kind of doing these lecture programs, but P&J wants to do more. So we're going to take the list moving forward, and we're going to identify a project for each site to sort of assist them more in their efforts for full preservation. So sort of, I want to say an exclusive list, but each year it'll give 10 places the opportunity to work with us for a year with their goals. So I'm going to use the cemetery project kind of as an example, because that was I think it was a 2021 or 2022 10 most list. So our project that we're developing is a statewide cemetery preservation master plan. Other sites might be interpretive signage. It might be helping them through their planning process. Maybe it's helping them through getting through to the right stakeholders, or curating meetings for them to get from A to B. Maybe it's assisting them with grants for the restoration of their site, or maybe they need more programmatic support, and maybe we can do joint programs. So while it's not fully fleshed out as of my presentation this evening, that is sort of where we want to see P&J go in the next few years. Really, hands-on approach with the various and different sites that might and may be affected. We also hope that, again, what's next for P&J, to rebuild membership. We know a lot of people in our field. With the 250th coming, there are so many sites that we could partner with and work with, which in turn would also support us and grow our organization. So we will be implementing new membership levels, new membership, sort of what P&G will give back to its members and offer its members. And then growing the board itself, making a more professionalized board. And the board in the past, we have always had, architects in the field, educators, scholars, and we're going to continue to do that. But adding more people to the board so that we could, again, expand our capacity. And with that, that is my brief presentation on P&J and what we do and where I think that we're going, and we'll open up to questions.
Well, that was wonderful. I'll give you a virtual round of applause.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kelly. So Gary has entrusted me with moderating the Q&A session, and I will take the liberty of asking the first question while everyone else prepares their own. Kelly, you are obviously such a busy woman. We heard a little bit about the many hats that you wear from Gary at the beginning. What made you, with all that you have going on, what made you want to get involved with P&J yourself?
Excellent question. I knew about P&J previously. We were a 10 Most site. It was the Patterson Armory. What I do even now has been on a very, I'm going to say very, very local level. I have not left Passaic County or the boundaries of Passaic County. And I think that, I want to do more, and I want to offer, I think the skills that I've learned, the knowledge that I have to assist other sites. I have always been one to, it makes me sad seeing, some sites closed or in bad, states of disrepair, and I just want to help. And I know that sounds very simplistic, but it's just like my passion.
No, I love that. If you see something you disagree with, don't just be sad about it. Don't complain about it. Do something.
Do something about it. So yes.
Awesome. Thank you. So we have a question in the chat from Tim. Is 10 Most always a building?
No, very great question. So 10 Most has covered even more like, let's say, topics. In recent years, we have voted on underrepresented stories or resources, policies like in funding, which, kind of ties into where how states are funding their own historic sites. So no, 10 Most has sort of covered, buildings, monuments, landscapes, and just preservation topics in general.
Categories too,
Categories.
Right? Firehouses, cemeteries, like whole categories when we can't pick one.
And actually, that's good that Melissa added to that. So like the firehouses and cemeteries, for example, they were selected because in those particular years or rounds of the 10 Most nominations, it was like 10 cemeteries. So it made sense that yes, like this is a problem in the state. So we're going to list this as a category.
Those popped to mind because
Yeah.
I had
They're
my
the recent ones.
my students were writing about P&J sites in the spring semester. Here's
I have a follow-up question since we're on 10 most. How are the 10 most selected? And do you ever repeat one?
This is an excellent question. And Dale, I'm like Dale. So since my first round of 10 most, we had a very small committee, but it is a committee of P&J members. And, we review them, its location, its need, right? The need. And, it hasn't been listed before. Typically, P&J will not list again a site that has already been listed. However, now that the program is in its, over 20 years, like Sandy Hook, I'm just going to use that as an example. It was listed in 1995. And then individual elements of Sandy Hook have been listed in subsequent years. I think the most recent might be 2019 or 2018 about. And now we're going to revisit Sandy Hook at our 10 most announcement. So we will be at Sandy Hook. Again, just bringing attention to that site. I don't know if that answers the question fully, but that is.
I guess what I was wondering is whether it's all done internally or whether you get nominations from outside P&J for sites.
All of the nominations are done outside of P&J. They are by the public. So it could be yourself, it could be other community groups, it could be the municipalities, so like one I know this year, it's like her next door house. She's like, I'm putting this, I'm nominating this on the list because I see this every day and, we need to save it. So it's not done by P&J board members, the nominations themselves. We just review what's submitted and then we make a list of 10. And, there's a lot of discussion that happens and then we bring it to the board and the board votes on the final slate.
And just one last one. On your new website, will you have a list of all the previous 10?
Yes.
The ones going back to when you first started?
Correct. We did have, before we sort of switched to our new website, I think we went back to 1998 online. So all of that will be transferred onto this new website.
Okay, thank you. I'll come back with another question later, but I'll give somebody else a chance.
Okay. While Gary's generously giving someone else a turn, I will switch to Ken in the chat. Ken writes, do you have a favorite case where a 10 most selection created community action?
I am very, very new, but I can tell you, and I only can tell you this because I'm affiliated with Paterson, that Hinchliffe Stadium, which I'm sure everyone has seen, has a lot of press here. It was on P&J's 10 most list. I think it was first on P&J's list, and then it reached the National Trust 11 most list. And since then, right, there's been a lot of push and advocacy through the Preservation Commission, Friends of Hinchliffe Stadium, all the various partners and stakeholders to see that site fully turn around, and we're extremely proud of it. And I think that's something also P&J, the National Trust, through their program, should be proud of, to see such a major success story in terms of community action, funding mechanisms, and how that kind of site came about. And I know it's not the only one. I know that we've been working with, and Melissa can say through our talks with our 10 most on, and that's the purpose of that, program, is to, share the success stories and how the community has responded to being on the 10 most.
Yeah, I would note that some of our past programs are available on P&J's YouTube channel, and you can go back and see kind of some of those success stories. Something of, Shady Rest Golf Club. It's one tool that sites have in their toolkit. I wish we had like a bag of money we could go around giving people, but we can give them publicity. We can help create a groundswell of support.
One example, which we just highlighted recently, I believe it was from 2013. So thinking 10 years, since it was listed, the Collins House, which is an 18th century wood frame structure in Bellevue, or Bloomfield, excuse me, Bloomfield, New Jersey, has completely turned around through the municipality and the historic society there. They were able to, after being listed on the 10 most, work towards, writing grants, coming up with a plan to restore that house. They are not finished yet, and yes, it might have taken them 10 years. But that sort of gave them the first step and the momentum to get from point A to point B. So we're happy to have learned about that story as well.
Yeah, another one we featured on Talks with Our 10 Most recently would be like Camp Evans in Wall Township, right? And they spoke, Mike Ruane and Fred Carl spoke a lot about how we were an early supporter of theirs, and they wound up saving the site after the Army departed, getting on the National Register, and then also becoming a National Historic Landmark. So, there are, sometimes it feels like there's so much work to be done, and how are you ever going to move the needle? But when you stop and look, there really are these concrete examples of 10 most sites being saved, and I hope that PNJ has played a tiny part in that. Okay, other questions? You can unmute yourself and ask, or you can type it in the chat and I'd be happy to read it for you. I know Gary's got another one. I'm going to throw one out there. I'm going to beat Gary to it because I thought perhaps you could tell folks just a bit more about the bin. I think that's a really interesting program where we're going to see a lot of growth in the coming years, right?
Yes. So the BIN program has been sort of this directory, or this, I'm going to say directory, but network, we call it a network of professionals in the field of preservation. So you could be a conservator, an architect, a contractor, services, so a company or organization or individual that provides services in terms of historic preservation, museum consulting, preservation planning, and with that network, right, they sort of pay to be a part of the network. We advertise those, organizations, and typically the bin tends to be a sponsor of the work that we do, and then we work with those companies, individuals to write, like, maybe there's some projects that they're working on that we can help support them in terms of promotion and advocacy. Then there are, sometimes we get questions, and, I'm not an architect, so I might need to use that, ask them, so there's sort of this continued dialogue, and it's just really a network for us to help each other.
Awesome. Gary, I know you had another question.
I just wanted to ask about one particular site. You had a picture of a group holding up a sign about the USS Ling. And I'm familiar with that place, but I haven't been there lately. Can you give us an update on what's going on with that?
I wish I could. However, the last update that I have had, I know it was, I think, recently on the 10 most, there were discussions about moving the Lang up to the Passaic River near the Great Falls. And I think those plans had fallen through. And now the site has faced a bit of vandalism, which I think has, stopped and halted some planning initiatives that they were going to move the Lang. But I could certainly follow up with them. Like I said, I'm born and raised in Bergen County, right next to Hackensack, and I can reach out to them and ask, and then I can share with the group if they're interested on the Lang.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, we'll circle back on that one.
It's a good story. And yeah, it's been there, a long staple there. And they had always hoped to open it up as a museum. I know that at least there's a program called the Sea Cadets, which is out of Teterboro Airport. And they have used the Lang, like, in terms of training and like education and awareness. So I know that the Lang has been involved in, a lot of outside programs. So we would like to kind of see that definitely move forward.
Well, I was familiar with it because at one time I coordinated the internship program for the Rutgers History Department, and we sent a lot of interns up there, and it was open as a museum, and the interns would give tours, both adults as well as children, with a Boy Scout group sometimes would come. And they had a separate building with displays, and then they had the, the wing where you could get on there and walk around. And at that time, there were still World War II veterans who were involved with the site. And, they were very knowledgeable. So it was really a wonderful opportunity to learn about what, this remarkable survivor from World War II. But that group, got older, and they're not there anymore, is my guess. And then last I heard, that somebody wanted to take over that property and develop it, and so they had to do something, and that's where the last I heard about it. So I didn't know what was going on.
I think it's still in a stagnant. I know the redevelopment is coming because all of downtown Hackensack has seen a new wave. But I know that they were halted for vandalism, but I'll definitely reach out and I can follow up and share for sure.
It might be interesting to have, updates on your past 10 most, and maybe have that on your webpage, as to what the current status is of those places. Some of them success stories, maybe some not, but I think it would make an interesting and informative website.
I don't want to speak for Kelly, but the website was providing updates, right? And that's something we'll continue to do once you get the new website live. Right?
Yes, yes. So I know that up until the year of COVID, there were updates going at least up till 2019. So if, let's say, a site was listed in 2013, there was a 2019 update. So and a lot of that too is, and I know that Dale and Melissa have worked a lot on this through getting an intern to sort of keep reaching out to the 10 most list, because now you can imagine having 20 plus years, like contact information changed, organizations changed. So we just try to trial and error and tracking down some of the sites. So, a lot of the research I've done lately is thanks to Google and Google News and newspaper articles, which, is helpful. But yes, our intent will be to continue to do active updates on the 10 most program as best as we can.
You mentioned interns, and we did, when I was at Rutgers, we did send interns to PNJ, and they had very good experience there, learning about how to promote, sites, and they went on some site visits and so forth. Are you still signed up to get interns with the Rutgers History Department?
I'm not sure if we're signed up with Rutgers, but if you have a contact, we'd be happy to do so.
I can get that to you.
Thank you. I would love interns.
They're not paid, these interns?
Well, actually, PNJ is very generous to pay their interns.
They're not allowed to be paid. They're undergraduate history majors.
Oh, that's interesting, Gary, that no longer doesn't allow them to be paid. Anyway, we're getting down in the weeds a little bit. So let me pick this next question in the chat from Jane. Jane says, historic preservation can be overwhelming to a local organization. It sounds as if you are adding more resources to help groups. Will that all be on the new website?
So yes and yes. I think that's what PNJ's future holds. I mean, it has always been an organization to be a resource, and I think expanding, with the extensive board that we have and the knowledge that they have, we want to give that back, to our communities and to our constituents. So all of these resources will be up on our new website. And not just stuff you can download and click, but then there's videos. We do have actually a YouTube channel with a lot of past presentations that talk about preservation planning, topics on demolition or redevelopment. So we already have some of those resources available. Keep checking in on our website. We'll definitely put it in our newsletter when it's fully up and operational. But of course, emailing us, calling us, writing to us, we're able to guide you and send what we need to.
Okay, thanks for your question, Jane. Any other questions from the audience? Again, you can unmute yourself and ask, or you can type it in the chat and I'd be happy to read it for you. Okay, well, speaking of the chat, I would remind everyone, if you haven't seen it, I put the links to our 10 Most page in the chat, so you can plan to join us out at Sandy Hook on June 4th, right, Kelly? It's June
Sure.
4th. Yep, and to our Q&A with PNJ and other events that we have coming up. So make sure you check out PNJ's website now, and then maybe once a week or something like that. That Kelly has planned. If there are no further questions, let me just ask you, Kelly, if you have any closing thoughts.
And no, I'm just very appreciative to be able to, get this information out there on the work that we're doing and hoping to do, and making the connection now with a new group. So hi, everyone. And I'm here as a resource. So call, email, invite me back anytime. So
awesome. Okay, and Gary, any last words from you?
No, just thank you both, Melissa and Kelly, for helping put this together, and we hope to see you at future meetings.
yes.
All right. Well, then, thank you so much, everybody, and have a great night. Bye-bye.